Hello guys, a very good morning. Welcome to the sessions of Docker. So in this sessions, what we are going to discuss here, whenever we are going with the configurations of this Docker and Docker configurations. So the point what you need to understand here is, so the first and foremost thing that we are going to discuss or else that we are going to see in this sessions is that, so what is Docker, what is container, and how we are going to create the containers, what is a Docker networking. So if you can see here, so what is Docker, what is container, and we will be discussing about Docker networking, Docker networking, and then Docker images, and we'll go with what I can say, Docker volumes, Docker swarm. So with that, we will wind up the sessions. So overall, the sessions will take you around some 10 days of time to complete. And your actual class timings will be around 7 o'clock. Okay, I will tell you from when the class will be at 7 o'clock. Okay, so as of now, so these are the things that we will proceed with. So most probably we will be working with the Linux operating system. Okay, we will install the Docker on Linux operating system. That will be in the Ubuntu operating system. We will install that. Okay, and then so you need to have a basic knowledge on Linux operating system too. Now, why we need to go for the containers? What is the necessity of going with the containers? See, what we will learn in the Docker, as we are going with the Docker concept itself. So what we will be learning in the Docker. So whenever we are going with the Docker concept, so what we will learn about containers, especially about the containers. So what is a container and how we can configure the containers? These are the things that we are going to discuss. Okay, so especially we will work with the containers, not with the Docker and Docker engine. Okay, Docker is just like an engine, or else Docker is like a software. So which will have the containers. So we will learn about the containers, how a container will be created and how we can configure the containers, what is meant by an image. So like that, we will discuss more and more topics on the containers rather than the Docker concepts. So what you need to understand here is, so Docker is just a, what you will say, Docker is just an application which will be running the containers. That's it. So now here the most important topic is, what is a container. So a container is an environment that is created on the Docker engine or else in any containerization engine. So we will go with the Docker only, but majorly it is one of the part of the containerization platforms. So rather than Docker, we are having container D, CRIO, and like that RKT. We have many more Dockerization engines. Okay, so among those, the famous Dockerization or else containerization engine is your Docker. Okay, am I able to? Am I sorry? Are you able to understand this? So Docker is one of the containerization engine. So which will carry out the containers. Now the point what you need to understand here is, what is meant by a container. So container is a environment. A container is an environment which will be running on the containerization engine platform. Either it might be a Docker, Containerd, any of the containerization platform that will help us to create, or else that will help us to run the applications with its dependencies in an isolated environment. So if I have to define about the container, again I am saying you the same. A container container is a Okay, a container is an environment to run the applications with its dependencies in a container, or else in a containerized platform, and containerized platform such as Docker or ContainerD, such as Docker or ContainerD, and so on. You can go with any number of containerized platforms. So this is what you can say. So in a containerized platform such as Docker and ContainerD, with isolation, you can say that one container will be isolated with the another container. So, excuse me. So what did you understand from this container? Can you tell me about that? So I have given you the a sort of a definition. From this definition, can you tell me what did you understand about this? So I have the two students over here. Yes. Now tell me, what did you understand?
Yeah, it's a self-contained package like application and its dependencies, like maybe the underlying operating system or the third-party libraries, all packaged as one single package so that it's a standalone.
Exactly. So that is the same. So it's a standalone and it's an isolated one, so that which will be running the application and its dependencies. Okay, that is called as a container. So it's like a process. For example, in an operating system, if you want to open Google Chrome, for example, I opened a Google Chrome. Google Chrome is an application which is running, but in the back end, it is a process. If you can see here, so how many tabs are there? Here you can see inside the Google Chrome, for example, just assume that this Google Chrome is an Docker engine. Okay, Chrome browser is a Docker engine. And how many tabs that you have opened? These are all the processes. Okay, inside the Google Chrome, you are having the processes, which means that each and every tab is isolated with each other, which means that it has its own website. So this is an isolation. So one tab will not have the connectivity with the another tab. If you want to open that, you can open, but the connectivity won't be there. So in the same manner, here also, if you can see here, let me show you one thing. Here in the task manager, you can clearly see this. How many Google Chromes are open? Like see, here you can clearly see this. 17 tabs are open. So among that, what are the different processes that are running on? We have opened only 4, but these are the sub processes that are running inside that Google Chrome. So which means that, so in the same manner, you will be having a Docker engine. Okay, you will be having a Docker engine. In that Docker engine, containers will be running. So these containers are like processes for the Docker engine. So if you want to understand about this Docker and containerization, let me tell you what exactly is a container. Is a container. So what exactly is a container? Uh, Let me do by Julia Students. Okay, if you see here, she has given a very good documentation about this. See here, what is this container? So the first time I heard about the containers, it was like what and what's that? So is a container process, what's Docker, and are containers Docker? So word container doesn't mean anything super precise. Basically, they are a few Linux kernel features that let you isolate that let you isolate the processes from each other. When you use those features, you will call it as an containers. So basically, there are few Linux kernel features like they are like a processes. Whatever the containers that you are seeing, whichever they are running on your Docker engine, they are nothing but the processes that are running. So each process will be isolated from the another process. Okay. So this is what we call it as a container. That is what you need to understand. It's a basic thing. Now here you can see what is meant by a namespace. So it is nothing but it's like an PID, okay, process ID, or else it is the name of each and every container. One namespace doesn't have any connectivity with the another namespace. Okay, so it is like a naming convention. For example, there are multiple people are there. So each and everyone will have their own names. In the same manner, each and every container will have its own process ID and as well as or else container ID as well as the name. Okay, so that's called as a namespace. Previously, we are having C groups and namespaces, but now we are going with the containers. So see here, okay, now that you have seen two features. So if you go through this, you can have a clear-cut understanding about what is a container. Now you have seen these two features, you might think now I can build a bunch of scripts around all the features that has having real. So some people thought that it is possible. They build the thing called Docker containers. So this uses these features. So these Docker containers is of course Docker has a lot of features these days, but lot of it built on the basic Linux kernel primitives, which means that whatever the Docker containers that we are going to do or else that we are going to create, everything will be created on the Linux kernel itself. Now here you can clearly see this, how a container will be working and these are the things. But majorly what is my perspective of understanding a container, what I want to share you is that a container is a process that is running in a Docker or a Docker application, which will contain the applications and their dependencies. Okay, if you say that, that's more than enough. So once the container is running in the background, once the container is running in the background, or else once the container is start, then the application will also be running in the same Docker image. Now I hope you understand what is a container. Now let us create or else let us install the Docker in an Ubuntu operating system. So how we can go with the Ubuntu operating system straight away? So to run that, I'm using the AWS. Okay, so I'm using the AWS. So let me launch the instance. Instance is nothing but the server. So I want a Docker server. Name is I will provide like Docker, and I will select the Ubuntu mission, and then I will go to T2 micro. So T2 micro is the system configuration, like one CPU, 1 GB of RAM. So this is the server which I am taking. That's more than enough for me. And I will go with the Docker key. If you know the AWS operating system, then you will easily understand what I am doing. If you don't know the AWS operating system, simply create a Linux mission. So how you can do, you have any Linux mission?
Uh, I mean, installing Linux operating system, sir, or creating a VM you are telling about?
You can create a VM. Okay, if
VM.
you have the knowledge on the VM, you can create a VM. Okay,
Okay.
so it's nothing very precise like that. You need to have an understanding about the AWS, but if you have the knowledge about how I have to create the VM, and if you can create the VM in your desktop, you can work with the VM also.
Same thing can be done in Azure also, sir. I have Azure account. So can we
Yeah, you
create a
can do
VM
that.
there? And,
If you have an Azure account, then simply what you will do, you can go to portal.azure.com. As I
okay.
will provide the trainings on Azure also, simply you
Okay.
can go for Azure, and what you can do, you can create a resource group, and then
Mm, mm.
you can simply launch an virtual mission. That's it.
Okay, operating system, how would I select? So that was my little unknown area actually.
Now, in Azure, you will have the images, right? In Azure also, like in your
Mhm.
Windows, sorry, like in your AWS, how you are having the AWS, what I can say, AMIs, Amazon Mission Image. In the same manner, in Azure also, you will have the images, right? You
Okay,
can,
okay.
you can create that. So let me show you.
Yeah. That means
Anyways,
locally we don't need to install anything. On this sample VM, we can do all our exercises
every,
or any practice. Right.
everything, whatever I do, I will work it on the AWS only. So we don't need to go for, I will work with the AWS. So I will configure on the AWS. If you have the Azure, you can work it on the Azure also. So both are the same. Okay. So it is not like
Okay.
different things.
Hmm.
Okay. So hold
Yeah.
on. The basic concept that is revolve around the Azure is Azure or any cloud system is the same. Okay, so taking a server backup or else okay, let it come. But anyways, coming back to this, do I have my instances ready? Yeah, here you can see my instance is up and running, which is an Ubuntu server. Copy the public IP address. If you have an understanding, you know what I am doing. So just I am going to log in through putty. Okay, I will provide the IP address and I will be logging into my system. Okay, once you have logged into the system, what you can do here is, it's not a very difficult task to install the Docker, but before I install the Docker, I would like to show you something. So what I will do here is, look at here, uh, apt update -y. Let me update the repos. Once the repos are updated, and then what I can do here is,
Sir, one question I have, I mean, the same which I asked you, is there any difference between Kubernetes and Docker, or Docker is a prereq for Kubernetes?
Docker is a prerequisite for the Kubernetes.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So it's like an orchestration tool. Docker will be installed first and then Kubernetes will be installed on the top of Docker.
And this course is specifically for Docker. This will not cover Kubernetes, right?
So it will not cover the Kubernetes, but if you are interested, like once the course is completed, you can join in the Kubernetes session also.
Okay. So Kubernetes is going to be a standalone session, or along with DevOps?
We are thinking like, see, it's like a basic Docker sessions we are planning for
Oh,
the 1 week. Actually, 1 week is more than enough to complete these sessions. Okay.
okay.
So now what we are thinking of is that so we will basically give the Docker session, and later actually I have a session going on with the Docker and Kubernetes also. Both combination is also there, but
And
my
when,
my intention is that there are people who are interested in learning Docker only. So after that, once they have completed the Docker, then they can go for the Kubernetes.
okay.
So yeah.
When you'll be starting the Kubernetes, like how to contact on that?
Uh, that I am deciding right now, but actually I have an morning session for morning. We have the AWS sessions and the Kubernetes classes are going on in the another evening session. As
Okay.
of now, my point is within 1 week or 10 days,
Oh,
most probably by November 15th, I might be completing the Docker and Kubernetes in that evening session.
okay.
So
Uh, 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 okay.
you can join to that.
Actually, I have like my schedule for morning only. So any plan to shift that session to morning, or maybe the new session to morning?
I have to think of that. Why? Because see, morning, as I already said, you have an AWS session at 6 o'clock in the morning, which will be starting at starting from 2nd of November. So
Oh,
that session will take an another 20-25 days to complete.
Okay, okay, okay. Right.
So I cannot promise you that within this month I cannot start a new batch of Docker and Kubernetes in morning. But
Okay.
if time is there, then on December I will start it.
December you will be starting.
Mm.
Okay.
I'm thinking of that.
Right, right. Got it.
So anyways, I will let you know if there is any session of Docker and Kubernetes which I'm starting within this month. So you will get a confirmation from DurgaSoft. The most probably thing is,
Sure.
uh, what I can say, if the AWS session is scheduled at 6 a.m., then there might be a chance I can take a class at 7 a.m.
Right.
Docker and Kubernetes will be taken at 7 a.m. so that I will intimate you. Okay, don't worry about that.
Right. Actually, one more thing. Actually, I have planned to attend your this 8 a.m. session started from yesterday. I'll be enrolling for that. That's a complete DevOps. But some requirement I have to do the Kubernetes in advance. So
My 8 a.m. session. Did I start it?
8 a.m. You have 8 a.m. session for DevOps and
I don't have the 8 a.m. session.
yeah. But Kubernetes is Kubernetes I need to do in advance. It could be in parallel or something like that.
Do one thing then. It's from today onwards, I'm starting Kubernetes session. In So you said that evening batches are not comfortable. Okay,
Oh,
but the point is, I'm starting the Kubernetes at 7 p.m. in the evening.
okay.
So if you have the interest to join into that, I will. What I can do here is, you can get the Docker videos also in that. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so you can enroll for that session and you can join to that. That is the option which I can provide you.
Right. 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 Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be fine. I'll try if I'll be able to join that one evening session. That's still conditional for me.
Evening 7 p.m. Okay, evening 7 p.m. at that might be starting around 7:10 also. But the
Right.
point is, from today onwards, freshly we are starting the Kubernetes. By yesterday, we have completed the Docker sessions.
Okay.
Okay,
That's okay.
so you can get a bunch of Docker videos, and from today onwards, we will start the Kubernetes.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Okay, so if any another one also you are interested to join, you can join in that sessions also. But anyways, coming back to this, what we are going over here. Yeah. So how to install Docker on this Ubuntu server? If you want to install the Docker onto this Ubuntu server, simply what you have to do is, curl. I am not going very in deep into how by taking the commands and all the things. It is not necessary for us. So simply what you can do here is, you can go with the, so sudo hyphen and curl hyphen sl https // get.docker.com. Before I go into this get.docker.com, let me show you one thing. So I will install the apt install net hyphen tools. So this is the command which I will run. Why? Because I just want to show you about the network interfaces. If you can see the network interfaces, mm, what I can do, if config, see here we are having only two network interfaces. So this is Ethernet 0 is the main network interface of your server, which will allow the network traffic to enter into the server. Okay, so from any traffic that is coming from the Ethernet or else internet, if that has to be entered into your server, then we will be going with the this particular configuration. Okay, so next what we are going to do here is, so when we install the Docker, what is going to happen? Curl hyphen sl https colon get.docker.com with the bash. So it will be installing. So if you can see here, what I am trying to explain you here is, so there is our server. This is our server. Try to understand. This is the server which I have installed, which we have right now in our AWS mission. and this server will have an Ethernet adapter. So this is the ETH0 where the outside traffic will be entering into your server. From any traffic that is coming from the internet, that will be entering into your server. Now what we are doing here is we are installing Docker application. We are installing a Docker application where containers will be created. For example, if you think this is the Docker application in which the containers are created, now what is going to happen? So this Docker application, or else inside this Docker application, whenever you create a Docker application, automatically a network or else Docker network adapter will be created. An adapter will be created that is called as Docker network adapter. If you can see here, Docker is installed. Previously, if you see, we have only two network adapters, but now we have got the third network adapter, that is Docker 0, which will be created with the Docker. So this is the network adapter which is going to be created with the Docker, and this network adapter will be in contact or else will be in connectivity with the Ethernet 0, our host adapter. So Ethernet 0 is called as a host adapter. Now if you want to know about that, simply what you can do here is Docker network ls. If you give this command, it will display that. See here, this is the bridge adapter which you are having inside your Docker, and this is the host adapter that is connected to our server, and there is another adapter called as null adapter, which is nothing but your loopback adapter, which will be helpful for you for in the testing purposes. So if you want to test any application, or else if you want to test your network connectivity, network interface card, then this loopback adapter will be helpful. And remaining two, you will have understood about this. So this bridge adapter is the major key component of your Docker that will helps the containers to make the communication with the outside internet. So if I create a container over here, so this container will be created in this loopback, or sorry, in this Docker bridge adapter. It will be connected to this Docker bridge adapter. So if you want to make the communication will be happen through the bridge adapter. So the container will try to communicate with the bridge adapter, and the bridge adapter will forward the data to the Ethernet adapter, and from there it will be communicating with the internet. This is what happens in the backend. So how we can create a container? How we can create a container? So to create a container, so the command is docker run. So directly I am creating and running the container, docker run hyphen itd hyphen name of the container is test container. Okay, and the image is Ubuntu. So what is this image? We will discuss about the images in the upcoming sessions, but as of now, what we are doing here is, so we are going to create these images. Okay. So, and next what I will do, if you see here, the image is not on my local server. The image is not on my local server. It is pulling the image from some another registry. Where is this registry and what happens with that? I will tell you in the upcoming sessions. But right now, try to concentrate that we have created a container. So to check whether the container is created or not, you need to give the command docker ps. Just write down the commands, guys. Again, there is no any cheat sheet. Okay, so if you are learning Docker, I will be telling the what I can say concept. I will be going with the concept every time. I cannot provide you the cheat sheets. Just write down in a rough note so that you can, it will be helpful for you. So when I give the command docker ps, it is going to display the containers that are running. So if you see here, test container, which is running on my Docker application. Okay. So we can go inside the test container, we can install whatever the applications that we want, we can run that, but I can't. So what I want to say you here is, this is the way you can create a container. Once you have created the container, if you want to check whether the container is created to which, or else whether the container is connected to this bridge adapter or not. So what is this? This is my, so simply I can call it as a test container. This is my test container. So this is what I have created, and this test container will have an IP address of 172.17.0.2. Why it will be, I will tell you. Okay, so this is my Docker 0 adapter. Docker Docker 0 adapter. This adapter will have, or else network adapter will have an IP address of 172.17.0.1, and it so both the entire Docker network will be in a network of default network for the Docker network is 172.17.0.0/16. So this is the default network of a Docker network. Okay, so the next one is, so this is my Ethernet 0, which will be connected to the internet. Okay, so this is what you need to understand. Now what you have to understand here is how we can check out this Docker container is connected to the Docker adapter. It is very simple. Docker inspect. Okay, so test container, I will give the name of the test container. So if you can see here, see that the IP address of the test container is 172.17.0.2, and the gateway is nothing but the entry and exit point of the data. So whatever the data that is trying to enter into your container, from which it will be entered. Obviously, whenever the data is coming from the Ethernet 0, it has to enter into the Docker 0, and from Docker 0 network adapter, it has to reach to the test container. And as well as, which means that this is the entry point. So the data that trying to get into the test container, first of all, it will be reached to the Docker 0. And as well as, if any data that has to go outside of your container, it has to reach to the Docker 0 itself. So that is an exit point. So the entry and exit point is nothing but your gateway. Okay, so this is the gateway IP address. The Docker 0 Ethernet adapter IP address is 172.17.0.1. That is what they are trying to say. So if you want to inspect the, what I can say, Docker network inspect bridge. So this is the name of your adapter. If I give the name here, you can clearly see this. Test container container is, or else test CONT container is having this particular IP address, which is connected to this network adapter. So whatever the bridge network adapter is there, under bridge network adapter, you are having a single container, so that you can clearly understand from this. So this is what the containerization and how your containers will be created under a single network. So if you want to run the multiple containers, you can run. So automatically by default, you don't need to provide any network on. For example, if I want to create another container, Docker run, see here, hyphen itd hyphen name of the container is test container 2, and I will go with the Ubuntu image itself. Then automatically another container will be created in the default network. So if you want to check out that Docker PS, here you can clearly see this container test container 2 is created. And if you go for Docker inspect, or else Docker network inspect bridge, simply if I give this command, so under the bridge adapter we are having two containers. Okay, one is 172.17.0.3 and 172.17.0.2, which are created by defaultly. So if you want to create an, see, now what happens whenever the containers are created under the default network adapters. So first of all, I will try to log in into that container. How I can log in? Docker execute hyphen it. The container name is test container, and simply I will give bash. So then I will be entering into the container. So previously, if you see, I am on my host server. So this is the name of the server. Right now I am inside the container. This is the container ID of the container. So you can clearly see the difference. So previously I am in the server. Now I am inside the container. So by defaultly, the container doesn't have any part of, or else any applications, any utilities. So container will be empty. So you can install that apt update, as it is a Ubuntu container. Why? Because I have created the container based on the Ubuntu Linux. Okay, and apt install -y net -tools for the if config utility to be running. If at all, if I want to run the if config utility, then net tools should be installed. And if I want to go for ping, so ping is not running, ping will also are not available in my basic operating system. So IP utils -ping. When you install these two, then automatically the functions will be available for you. See that? Hold on. Done. So both are available. If you go for if config, it is going to display the IP address of the container. So you can clearly see this. The test container is having the IP address as 172.17.0.2. And if I try to communicate from this container, I am trying to communicate from test container 2. A new container is created with the name. What is the name? Test container 2. Okay, a new container is created with the name test container 2. Test container 2 with the IP address 172.17.0.3. So this is the IP address of the test container 2. And as you know that this container is also connected to the what I can say Docker adapter. This container is also connected to the Docker adapter. As the container is connected to the Docker adapter, what we can do here? So I am trying to communicate 172.17.0.3. As you can see, test container 1 IP address is 172.17.0.2. I am trying to communicate with the another container. Now I am getting the response from the another container, which means that you can clearly state that the containers which are connected on the same network can communicate with each other. But the problem is if I try to communicate with the name, so let me show you ping test container 2. So I cannot communicate with the name. So with the default connectivity, so if the containers are created under the default network adapter, they cannot communicate with the name. So to make the communication with the name, what I can do here is simply I am going to create one external adapter, one of the external adapter, and I will connect these containers, whatever the containers that are there, I will connect these containers to that external network adapter. So I will disconnect from the Docker 0 adapter. I will disconnect from the Docker 0 adapter, and then what I will do, I will try to connect these containers to the external network adapter so that they will communicate with the name. Okay, so now let me do one thing, how I can do that. So I hope that why we have to create the external network adapter. So if you can see Docker network ls, we have the three network adapters. Now what I will do here is Docker network create. Okay, so what I will do, mynet. This is the adapter which I am creating. So if you can see here, Docker network ls, sorry, Docker network ls, a new adapter has been created that is having the name mynet. Okay, or else my network, any name you can provide. So this is the new network adapter. Now this network adapter by defaultly, whatever the new network adapter that we have created, this is an another network bridge adapter with the name mynet. Okay, with the name mynet, and defaultly it will have the IP address as 172.18 range. So this will have the IP address as 172.18.0.1. So this adapter will have that particular range of IP, and this is also a bridge adapter, which means that it will be connected to your Ethernet 0. Okay, it will be connected to your server adapter. So it is also a bridge adapter, but this is not the default adapter. Now what you can do here is, see here, Docker network inspect mynet. If I give this, here you can clearly see this. My net is a bridge adapter, bridge driver, which is having an IP address of 172.168.0.1, and the network is 172.18.0.0. Sorry, 172.18.0.0 is the network in which the adapter is created with an IP address 172.18.0.1. Now, what I will do, so if you can see here, you are not able to see any sort of on the containers. Now all the containers are connected to the Docker 0. So what is my request here? All the containers are connected to the Docker 0. Now I can disconnect them. Docker, sorry, Docker network. Are you able to see the screen? Docker network, disconnect
Yes.
test container, or also disconnect bridge. From which adapter I have to disconnect the container? From the bridge adapter I have to disconnect the container, and test container, and another container is test container 2. I am disconnecting two containers from the bridge adapter, and I am reconnecting it to my, simply what you can do, docker connect my network is the another network which we have created. So if I give this, so automatically the containers will be disconnected from this bridge adapter, and they will be connected to the external bridge adapter. Once they have connected to the external bridge adapter, now you can check out that docker, what I can do, network inspect, I will give like mynet. If I give this, here you can clearly see this. Previously, we don't have the containers. Now we are having the containers. The container test container 2 is having the IP address 172.18.0.2, which means that previously the test container 2 is having 172.17.0.3. Now when we are disconnecting this, automatically what is happening? These two containers will be in this network 172.18 networks. So here you can clearly see this. Two containers are connected to the 172.18 network. So now what you can do here is, let me log in into that Docker container. Docker execute -it test container, and I will simply give bash. Now you can ping 172.18.0.2. Why? Because I am in the test container. So the test container IP address is 117.18.0.3. Now I am trying to communicate 172.18.0.2, which is nothing but test container 2. I am trying to communicate from test container to test container 2. So I will get the response with the IP address. But if I try to communicate ping test container 2, see here, previously through name we are unable to communicate, but now we are able to communicate with the name. So that is the main utilization of your external network adapter. So if you create an external network adapter, you can make the communication with the name. Is it clear for you now?
Yes, sir. But what's the difference, sir? Like the default Ethernet did not identify the name. Now the external adapter is able to identify the name. So what is the main reason can be, sir?
Main reason is it's an external adapter which is not an inbuilt, and we don't have, so the Docker is not providing the default feature with the name convention for the inbuilt network adapter. Okay, so
Okay.
when you build the Docker itself, automatically you will get a network adapter, but the Docker is not giving the naming feature for that particular network adapter. That's the main difference. And majorly, whenever we are creating the containers, so in containers we will try to communicate from one container to the another container. We will try to communicate with the name itself. So we will not communicate with the IP address. Why? Because the IP containers are stateless. Containers are stateless in the sense, suddenly if the container is stopped, okay,
Mm.
suddenly if the container is stopped and I will try to restart the container. Once I restart the container will get an IP, different IP address. So what is the meaning of that? For example, here you can clearly see this. So
Okay.
Docker network inspect mynet. If I give this right now, test container 2 is having the IP address 172.17.0.2. So
Okay.
let me do one thing. Docker stop test container 2. Okay, I have stopped the test container 2. Okay, once I stop the test container 2, and now what I will do here is, after stopping, I will try to restart the container again. Docker start. Sometimes I'm not saying every time it will change the IP address. Docker start test container 2. Okay, if I go back again, see here, the test container 2 again, it got back to 172.18.0.2, right?
Same address.
So
Yeah.
this time it got like this. If I stop the both containers, Docker stop test container and test container 2, I have stopped both the containers. Or else if you can restart the container also. Sometimes what happens, the IP address may vary, it will change. Okay, so to overcome this problem, what we will do here is we will try to communicate we'll try to communicate with the IP address, sorry, with the name.
The name of
Okay,
it. Okay.
so if you see here, test container 2, previously we are having 2, 172.18.0.2. Right now, what is the IP address?
Okay.
Okay, here you can see test container. Now it is having 172.0.3, but now what you are having 172.18.0.2, which means that the containers, when you stop the containers, there is a chance that the IP address may vary. So I don't want to have that problem whenever the applications are running. So applications, if at all, if I hard code that IP address, then automatically what will happen? So the application will check out for that IP address. If the application related data is not present on that container, so then we will be getting errors. Okay.
Okay.
So to overcome that problem, what we are going to do, we are going to make the communication with the names. So names will not be changed, right? So test container 2, the names are not changing. So they are constant. So I will give the names. So if the application has to communicate through the name, then definitely we need to go for the external network adapter.
Okay. Okay. This is a common practice, sir, normally in the practical work.
Generally, yeah, in the companies you will use the same.
Right, right. So basically, in this Docker engine, all these containers can communicate with each other. Means they can share their data also. Output of one application can be an input to another application.
Yeah. If you want, you can do that. But basically, they are isolated. Isolated in the sense one container data will not be with the another container. But see, if I have an Python application and there is a database, okay, the data will be collected by the Python application where it has to store, obviously in the database. Then you can have the connectivity with the both the containers. Okay, but basically what is my point of view here is, so if you want to run multiple applications, you can run the application without any communication also. If you don't want the communication, you don't need to connect to the two containers. If you want to make the communication, then you can connect the two containers. That totally in your hands itself. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So that's about your Docker and Docker networking. Tomorrow we will discuss a more and more topics about. So if you want to create any container with the network, what you can do here is Docker run -itd name of the container is test container 3, and I want to create in the network. So mynet by default, if you don't provide the network, automatically it will be created in the default network. But right now I am stating that I want to create this container in the mynet network with the Ubuntu image. So automatically a container will be created. And if you see here, see that Docker network inspect test container 3 is also created under the mynet network. Previously we are having test container 2 and test container, but now we are having test container 3, which is created under the my network external network adapter. So how we have created, we have to define that. So in that particular network I want to create a container. With that only we can create a new container with the predefined network. Okay.
Yeah. And the last word here, sir, in this document, in this last command, no, there is a Ubuntu at the last. We are already in the Ubuntu operating system, and we are trying to write Ubuntu. Why, sir? What is that last word required?
Do you have any understanding about the virtualization? Just a basic thing.
Virtualization. Yeah, having multiple operating systems on the same computer.
Right. So now I am having a Windows operating system.
Okay.
So in the virtual machine, what I can do, I can install another Windows operating system, right? So that
Yes.
means this is a separate host OS. Whatever the Ubuntu operating system which I am running, it's a separate host OS. And inside the container, I need to create an environment to run the applications. Are you getting this? So
Okay.
in the container, how you will run the applications without you don't have any base image. For example, if you don't have an operating system, is it possible to run
No,
a
not.
basic application? It is not possible. So for that environment, what we are doing, we are going with the Ubuntu base image as Ubuntu, or else you can go with any image you can go, but there will be a base environment, operating system environment, which is created to run that particular application and its dependencies. For that, I am going with the basic Ubuntu operating system. You can directly go with Nginx also. If you go with Nginx, so Nginx is an another image. What I want to try to say you here is Nginx is an another image, but that is not available in our local. Why it is pulling here? This words are very important. See here, unable to find the image. I am pulling. So why it
Yeah.
is pulling? You will understand this in the next session. But I
Okay.
have pulled from the Nginx. Now
Right.
once I have pulled Nginx image, now what is this basic Nginx image? The basic Nginx image will have the web server. So if you go into this container also, Docker execute -it test container for bash. If you see here, in the underlying operating system will be Ubuntu only. So if you go for apt update -y, so it is getting updated, right? So which means that I might take the image called as Nginx, which is a web server image, but underlyingly you will have the same Ubuntu packages itself. So which means that the images, so whenever you are creating the image, you will understand. So there will be a base image. On the base image, you are going to install all the applications. So right now I am taking directly the base image itself to create my container. Here, what I am saying, directly I am taking the base image to create my container. On that container, I can run the multiple applications, and how we are going to run that multiple applications, you can see in the images concept. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but one quick question I have, is it mandatory to have root user to work with Docker?
You can go with the normal user only also,
Okay,
but the problem is every time you need to provide a sudo access, like sudo
okay, okay.
docker ps, sudo docker images. So for any command to execute, you need to run with the sudo permissions.
Right, and there are multiple commands like when we run with Docker, which need sudo access. I mean, almost all the commands.
All the commands need the sudo access, so that's the reason I have gone with the root user. But
Right.
if you want to run with the normal user also, you can run that. See
Right.
what I
So,
can. Mhm.
so like generally the Docker administrators are also the system administrators.
Yes.
Okay, it's okay.
So I am a system administrator. If sorry, I did not give my introduction to you. I am a system administrator, uh, where I'm working from 2014 onwards. I worked in Mumbai location for an ICICI company,
Okay.
and then so I'm totally into banking. So I will look after the banking servers. So all around 600 servers. I am very much keen into the system administration, and then when the cloud has become the prominent role in the IT industry, then I have to shift it to cloud. So
Okay.
I will be working on AWS and DevOps, in DevOps, especially on the Docker, Jenkins, and Kubernetes. So that's my role.
Right.
So so I am giving trainings from 2013. You see, my job was from 2014, but still I'm providing the trainings from 2013 on Microsoft products. Now I have shifted to cloud computing from past 5 6 years.
Okay.
That's about
Actually,
my, yeah.
right. Thanks for that. Actually, I just want to understand like if it is a developer profile, so
Mhm.
what is the use for a developer to know Docker? Because developer cannot be getting the admin access.
Developer will understand at least how to create a Docker file.
Okay, file. Okay, okay, okay.
Okay,
Got
everything
it, got it.
cannot be done by the administrator, right? See, administrator. See, there will be a communication differences between the administrative people and developers. Sorry if you don't take it as another way, but there will be a like a communication problems. So why? Because the developer will run his code on his own environment. Try to understand. So if you are having a laptop and if you'll have some Windows 11 and you will have some Java version 17 which is running, and if you create an Java application in your laptop, that might be running good. Are you getting the point here? But
Yes.
once the application is sent to the production environment or testing environment to a server, okay, once it is sent to the server might have a already it is running some Java application on JDK 8 or else Java version 8. So now you have created a Java application which is of Java 17. Whether both are compatible to each other, whether both are compatible. So Java 17 and Java 8, which you will get the compatibility issue. Then obviously what the administrator will say, he will go into your form.xml, whatever you have created for your Java application. The administrator will check out the form.xml and says that, oh, buddy, your Java application is running on 17 version. Right now, I cannot run on that. Why? Because already there is a Java 8 application is running on the server. So how I can overcome this problem? Again, I need to improvise, or else I need to upgrade my Java version. If I upgrade the Java version already, whatever the applications that are running on that server will not accept that. And if I downgrade, or also I need to downgrade this application version. Okay, either the way I have to do that. Okay, so to overcome this problem, what I will do here is I will go with the containers. So in containers, what I can do, I can run the containers in the same server. So one container can have Java version 8 and the other container will have Java version 17. I don't have any problem with the versions. Why? Because they are separately isolated environments, so that what I can do, it's a simple container which I can run in the server. So which will run the multiple versions of the application. Are catching the point here? So
Right.
the developer will clearly understand, okay, we don't have any problem. Simply we can create whichever version we want to do, we can create it, and they will pack the images and they will send me to, then they will send it to the administrator, and administrator will simply deploy on the container so that you can have your application running.
Okay. So it's like we can have DevOps developer, we can have DevOps admin. So they both are with the different profiles.
It's slightly different profiles. I will not say the entirely different profiles. See, my
So
way of training will be totally in the administrator part.
okay.
Okay.
So does administrator need to code as well for
No,
Docker?
not necessary.
Not necessary. Okay.
So coding will be done by the developers, and most probably DevOps engineer doesn't have anything to do with the code.
Okay.
Okay, so not only developers, but if you say that, if I am saying that I am a DevOps engineer, I don't have, like, I need to have a basic understanding about the code to run the Maven, or else if any build tools I need to run, I need to have basic understanding. Okay, this is the place where I need to build the image. Basically, I need to have a little bit understanding about the coding, but the DevOps engineer doesn't require to have much knowledge on coding. Okay.
Good.
Yeah. So that's about your Docker basics, guys. And tomorrow we will discuss more and more topic about the Docker.
Tomorrow, what time shall we connect, sir?
6 o'clock.
6 or any other change in time, sir, like 6:30 or 7?
No changes. Most probably 6 o'clock. Most probably nothing. It's 6 o'clock. I will start the class.
Right.
Tomorrow will be the last demo session, and from Thursday onwards, or Thursday. No, what is today? Today is Wednesday. No, today is Tuesday, right? So from Thursday onwards, you will have the session at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock session. Okay, good to hear that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And the sessions will be recorded, no, sir? Like you can share us the recorded sessions.
Every session will be recorded and you will get the recordings.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much.